Today, the Below Average Joe's MMA show present verbal sparring with a twist. Because not only are me and Dom going toe-to-toe, head-to-head, 8 questions decided by you, the viewers, you, the MMA community. Although, Dom, for every wing or for every question, I must indulge myself to a blazing wing from B-Dubs. All of this to get me back into the below average bet slip in anticipation for Saturday's UFC 285. Some of the questions will include, what does Nate Diaz do next after Jake Paul lost Sunday? And who would you favor of the top light heavyweight contenders against Jamahal Hill? All this and more, and it all starts right now. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Verbal Sparring. I am going to pay up. I'm going to pay up in order to get myself back into the below average bet slip. I'm going to eat 10 boneless. Yes, boneless. Deal with it, people. I'm already a fat guy eating on camera. I don't want to be a fat, sloppy guy eating on camera.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it we have 8 questions today.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to eat one momentarily.
Yep.
And then before every question, I will eat one. And then I will eat one before closing statements. And Dom will kind of edit around so there's no chewing.
Well, yeah,
you'll see
not
me.
A bunch of chewing in the mic.
You'll see enough to know I'm eating it, but
yeah.
He's going to cut around you so they're not chewing into the mic and stuff.
Right. Do you know what I just thought of as you pick up the wing? Yeah. This one and the one for the first question are going to be really close together compared to the rest.
That's true. I'm going to eat this, and I'm actually going to ask about your day. But
okay, i I'll try and fill up all the space I can.
I am eating this with ranch, by the way. I'm going to try to eat these all in one bite. Now, B-Dubs has this reputation for small, overpriced wings.
Yeah.
This is not what I would consider a small wing.
Not at all.
This is kind of big.
Yeah.
Like, this is a mouthful.
Yeah.
I'm kind of nervous.
Well, you know that once the first one's in, that sting is in your mouth.
There's no going back.
For an hour.
I don't even know how to attack this, Dom, because
that is not a one-bite wing.
It's the shape of it's Florida. I don't know how to.
Oh,
I don't know how to do. Okay,
you're gonna have to do 2.
I'm gonna have to do 2 bites.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, and it has begun. Do you have napkins for the ranch? Okay, gotcha.
Okay, Dom. How's your day going so far?
I'm going to laugh a lot today, and it's not even to be mean, but it's just funny. Oh, my day, no, it's been good. You know, not only is it a special verbal sparring for this reason, you're buying essentially your way back into the bet slip, but look at this new look, right? The new look verbal sparring, the new look cage side, the new look for the MMA show logo in general, spicing things up. It's a big week heading into some big old months. No better time than now to revamp, make our stuff look even more pretty than it already was. And it's been a damn good day. I am so energized for this whole week, and I'm ready to attack these questions as you are attacking the Blazing Wings.
Question 1. Actually, I got to eat another one.
Oh. Now, are we reading the question, then eating? Eating, then reading the question?
No. Eating, then reading the question.
Okay. There we go. That's a one-biter. Perfect.
Question 1, Dom.
Okay.
What are some go-to cheat meals for broke college students? Since I'm eating food, I figured have a food question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to go B-Dubs Blazing Wings. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like the cliche thing that you always hear is ramen noodles. I survived off ramen noodles in college and when I was broke and yada, yada, yada. But no, I'll tell you, you and I kind of had a blessing in disguise because in our dormitories, we had basically a convenience store, a little grocery store in our dorms. So we were able to kind of live lavishly, should I say. So like for us, it was a little bit of everything because of those Falcon dollars. Shout out to Bowling Green. But a go-to cheat meal, if I had to pick one, let's see. I'm trying to. You know what? I found myself eating a lot of like frozen Michelinas. I think that's how you say the name. The green one. I know it's a green packaging. The mac and cheese, the cheeseburger mac. They have really good versions of pizza rolls, arguably better than Totino's. I know that's crazy, but just give it a try. What else was big on there? They had like chicken fried rice. I think if I had to pick one that's coming to my brain, the Michelina's frozen meals, and those 3 or 4 specifically.
My best friend was the Dollar Tree. When I was at my brokest, I would grocery shop there. So if you're a college student, broke, don't be afraid to go to the Dollar Tree. They got lunch meat. They got frozen meals. You can do some fancy stuff, buy some fries, cook them, put some hot sauce on them, whatever, spice it up a little bit. It's great stuff. Everything's $1. Next question.
Wonderful. Number 3, down the hatch. Oh, that's the first look. That's the first look of the day. Okay.
Question 2, Dom. What should Nate do? What should Nate Diaz do next following Jake Paul's loss versus Tommy Fury on Sunday?
Yeah, that's a good one. What does Nate Diaz do next? I feel like it's still in the realm of possibility for him to get a boxing match with Jake Paul. I know he even was tweeting, kind of throwing shade at him and Logan both. It was kind of a, one of those infamous Nate Diaz tweets that he just doesn't give a fuck, basically. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy that you put this question on here because I just hadn't thought about him lately, but he is the biggest free agent in mixed martial arts right now. It's just not in headlining news. So I don't see Bellator. I don't see PFL happening. A boxing match with a Paul brother, I think either of them, to be quite frank, is probably, if Nate Diaz is back in combat sports, it will be a boxing match against one of these two, regardless of Jake Paul losing to Tommy Fury.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Nate Diaz might be the biggest loser of Sunday, not Jake Paul.
Kind of.
He kind of took his ball, ran with it, and was looking to get that big payday. It doesn't seem like he's going to get that, at least not right away. Dustin Poirier is one of the few opponents that are still open.
Yeah.
Come on back to the UFC, maybe. But let me throw out a weird one for you, Dom.
Okay.
How about Mike Perry and bare knuckle boxing?
Goodness gracious, we have really lost you. You have gone off of the deep end this past week. No, don't need to see that. Don't want to see that. Don't think that's what he should do. Any of the phrasing here, I'm probably going to say no. But it also
could you imagine, like, he already gets cut up so quickly?
Oh, it'd be brutal. Not good. Not good at all. That, like, borderline shouldn't even be sanctioned. There'd be so much blood.
Yeah, you're probably right. God, this is
I can tell.
I'm not gonna lie. This is just as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not worse, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next question.
Wait. Okay. Go ahead. There we go. Here's some one-biters. I don't know what was going on with that first one. Number 4, down the hatch.
I stomached that one okay.
Nice.
Speaking of Dustin Poirier,
Yeah.
he's one of the only top-ranked lightweights that doesn't have a future matchup right now.
This is true.
You know who else is open? The champion, Islam Makhachev.
I see where you're headed.
Over under 20% chance Dustin Poirier is the next title challenger for Islam Makhachev.
Over under 20% chance. I'm going to say under. I love Dustin. I'm one of the biggest Dustin fans probably out there, but I don't know. Like, yeah, he's available. Yeah, he's coming off of a win. Islam's available, coming off of a win. but it just doesn't feel like Dustin should get a title shot off of that Michael Chandler win. And I don't know. It just feels like there are just other people ahead of him, specifically Beneil Dariush, who's going to have to fight Charles Oliveira, who deserve this chance over him. And I know the question's not necessarily about deserving and if he's just next in general, but regardless of what's all playing out in the division, I just don't see Poirier's next fight, maybe even next two fights, being for lightweight gold. So I'm going to go under 20%. Comfortably, I must say, under 20%.
What worries me is the timing.
Yeah.
Islam just fought. Charles and Beneil. Oh, that burp was not good.
That you spewed
God.
fire out just now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not good. Why did I ever say I was going to do this without drink? No.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I'm glad you're drinking.
I'm crying. Beneil and Charles fight in May.
Yep.
Will they be ready to turn around by the fall? You would hope, but what if it's a war?
Yeah.
Dustin needs a fight.
Yeah.
I'm going to say over because it's not about deserving.
Yep.
Dustin is a proven commodity.
Yep.
He is at least coming off a win.
Yeah.
It's not who I think should be next. Really, Dustin and Charles should probably be fighting again. And Beneil should be getting a title shot.
Yeah.
But Ramadan's a factor as well.
True.
Islam's probably not going to fight again until September, October.
Yeah.
It'll probably put him on an Abu Dhabi card. So
Fair.
Tongue's going numb a little bit. So
Going numb. Well, that might be a good thing.
Yeah. Question number 5.
Question 4, wing 5.
Oh, God. Oh, small one.
I was going to say, they're turning back to regular B-dubs now.
Question 4, Dominic.
Yep.
What is the biggest fight for the rest of 2023 not currently booked?
Okay. Now, this is where the questions start hitting a little harder, like the wings for Noah, and it gets a little tougher to answer. But the first one, that's what I traditionally like to do for the most part on this show when we do verbal, is the first thing that comes into my head. Sometimes I get more prep than others, and I'm going to go... Yeah, I have to. I think I have to do this one. I'm going to go Colby Covington, Khamzat Chimaev. I think that's the biggest fight right now, not booked for the rest of 2023, especially if we're not talking title fights. And there's a lot of title fights coming up right now. And name value wise, whether there's a champion involved or not, I don't think it gets much bigger than a Colby versus Khamzat. So I think that is the biggest. And for me as a fan, probably the biggest that I would like to see that hasn't been booked. Haven't heard really anything from either of these guys in quite some time. Colby's been the quietest he's ever been. Khamzat's just kind of like watching from the shadows, a little sneaky tweet here and there. Is he going to do 185? Is he going to do 170? But really no opponents really thrown out there other than Colby and maybe like Bilal. But again, biggest fight, it's Colby Khamzat for me.
I don't think it's going to happen because Khamzat's coach even has came out, I believe, and said he thinks his next fight will be at 185. They're kind of angling for Robert Whittaker right now.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is an awesome fight. That actually could be up on this list.
For sure.
I have 2 options.
Okay.
And both kind of depend on what happens in a title fight that is booked.
Okay.
Or kind of.
Wait, both of them with the same title fight, you're saying? Okay.
No.
2 different ones.
God
Gotcha.
damn it. I just burped again. Ugh.
You're spewing fire like the dragon in Shrek.
Yeah, this is bad. So the first one, my tongue's literally like dead. Like I'm gonna start like slurring. If John Jones wins Saturday, it's him versus Stipe.
Oh, interesting one. Interesting.
And I do think that is in the card. Stipe's actually in Vegas for this fight this weekend.
Do you think he's the backup, by the way?
No, it's Pavlovich.
Oh, no shit. Really? They found out? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forget who reported that. It might have been Raymundi. It might have been Okamoto. I'm not sure.
I was thinking Sergey or Curtis because they're fighting.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead.
Even though I do think the next title challenger should be the winner of that Sergey Curtis Blades fight.
I agree.
I do think the winner of that fight's next fight would be for the title.
Mhm.
But John Jones has shown when he gets back in there, yeah, he has these long gaps in his activity. But once he's there and committed, Dom,
Yeah.
he's one of the most active fighters in the whole company.
That's a
So who's
great
to
point.
say International Fight Week's not headlined by John Jones versus Stipe Miocic? I think that's lines up very well if John Jones is able to get past Cyril Gane. I'm not saying he's going to.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't think Cyril Gane versus Stipe is as big of a fight
Of course.
as John Jones versus Stipe. The other one, and this fight actually isn't booked, but Volkanovski is most certainly going to be fighting Yair Rodriguez next.
Hmm.
And then you have Henry Cejudo fighting Aljamain Sterling.
Oh boy.
If those two guys win their next fights,
That's big.
I think by the end of the year, maybe that December pay-per-view that the UFC really likes to boost with a couple title fights, you could see Henry making the attempt for a third belt. I really believe that. I believe that Cejudo, he is in my head favored against Aljamain Sterling. I favor him to win that fight. As tough of a challenge as Yair Rodriguez is for Volkanovski, oh my God. And as good as he is in general and how much he keeps improving, I still believe Volkanovski will get by him. It's a risky one because Yair feels like that kind of guy. Yeah, he lost to Max in a really tough nose fight, but he kind of feels like that guy that's just ready to reach almost superstardom.
Yeah.
And getting that win over such a pound for pound king and all time great in Volkanovski could be the thing to do that. So, regardless, I think the biggest fight outside of Jones Stipe is a Cejudo Volkanovski. And what's weird is I say that and it probably wouldn't even be a headliner. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, really? I think that one would. If Henry were to be a champion going in, I think they would make that a headliner. I do. That's a big one. And I almost
Probably
wonder,
right.
like,
You're probably right. Yeah.
but this is just me nitpicking now, and I'm not doing this to gripe on you. I'm giving you more time. That's what I'm doing between wings. But the problem is with that one, I almost wonder if it would even be able to happen in the 2023 calendar. That's my biggest thing, I think, with that one. But John and Stipe, I mean,
Yeah.
you know how much we've talked about that on this show in the past, especially. And it just feels like a big one. Not as big as it could have once been, just because Stipe's been off for so long and, whatever the case. But he is still arguably the greatest heavyweight the UFC's ever had. John Jones, arguably the best fighter ever, especially if he wins against Cyril Gane this weekend. That's a big one, man. That is a really big fight. You know what? I'm going to go question on a question here. This one just popped in.
Mm.
This probably isn't fair, but it's John Jones, so I'm going to pose this. If John Jones becomes the heavyweight champion, beats Cyril Gane this weekend, then were to fight Stipe and beat Stipe, 2 heavyweight fights, could John become the best heavyweight in UFC history?
I'm going to say no, but it's weird, right? Because first off, I'm sorry for cutting you off a little bit ago. You were like,
No, you're good. We had a little,
started getting a little zany in here. Not the wings. I'm good. But what's so weird, I guess, is I say no, but really Daniel Cormier did not fight that much at heavyweight in the UFC, and I was ready to say that for him if he beats Stipe in their trilogy fight. Now, some of that may have been just us doing a little PR for the UFC and, putting in the work on the promoter side of things. But I did really believe that at the time.
Yeah.
And I guess it depends on how the fight goes. But Stipe, I don't expect to be the Stipe that was the heavyweight GOAT if he were to meet or come back and fight again anyways.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of like, I think John Jones has to do a little bit more. He's already the best fighter of all time in my eyes. Like, I don't think it's even – I mean, it's up for discussion. Of course, depending on how you feel about PEDs or whatever. But truthfully, I think he is no doubt the best of all time.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Is he the most talented heavyweight of all time if he goes through those two guys? Yeah, probably, because he's the most talented fighter of all time.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, God. Here we go. Okay. Just when the burn was starting, we got to do this again. I mean, my tongue is numb.
Wing 6, question 5. Booyah.
Oh, God. Okay. Question 5, Dom.
Okay.
Who are 2 fighters who have not fought yet that you could see having a trilogy of bouts? We have done this before. If you are a attentive listener to this show that we do, we have done this before. It's been a while. I figured we'd revisit it because one of the fights, I don't remember who you said for that question the first time, Dom,
Me
but I
neither.
said Pitbull versus McKee, and we're on our way. I mean,
Yeah.
they're 1-1, so I mean, potentially we could see that at some point. So who would you say right now?
Okay. This is going to be one that I'm probably going to want to talk a little bit more in depth about. But again, the first one that comes to mind, and this could be a little bit of cheating, but not necessarily because they haven't fought yet. What do you think about What do you think about a Jalen Turner Matos Gamrot potential trilogy down the
Wow.
line? I view 2 guys like this as the future of the lightweight division. They're going to be around for a long time. Jalen probably a little longer just because he's a little younger. But Matos is still very much in his prime. I think he's like 31 or 32. Both guys just look so elite right now amongst these younger guys, especially. And, I'm viewing this as all these veterans up top are going to phase out. All these new guys are going to come in. Who's to say they won't stay amongst the top 5 like Dustin and Justin and Charles have for, X amount of years now? I think it's possible, especially like I'm looking forward to that fight this weekend, guys. That's the second most intrigued bout for me on this whole UFC 285 card is Turner versus Gamrot. I think that's just 2 young lions that are so evenly matched. The odds are going to be fun to talk about this weekend too. And I just think that's a great one. It's already number 10 versus number 7. 2 more times after that when they're amongst the top 10, top 5 still here in the next 1 to 2 years. And maybe one of them becomes a champion one day too. I think it's possible. I like starting with that one for sure.
There's a couple that were floating through my head, as hard as it is to really think right now.
Right. Yeah.
One that I'm going to throw out. How about Zhang Weili, Tatiana Suarez?
Oh man. That is a good one. That's a
I
good
feel
one.
like both are going to be in the title picture for a long time. I could see Zhang Weili getting the better of Tatiana, depending on how quickly the UFC push her. If she's fighting for a title, if she gets one more win and is fighting for a title, I could see her not quite being back to the level she was before the injuries, and maybe Zhang Weili catching her, a weaker version of her, and then her getting a couple wins, whatever, coming back, defeating Zhang Weili as a much more improved and kind of got her mojo back version. And then they do a trilogy bout where I would probably say right now, Tatiana Suarez, undisputed.
Interesting. I like that one. You knew coming in when you said that I was going to like that one. That's a good one. It's interesting you brought them up. I'm trying to look now. I mean, dude, you can make so many just in the women's flyweight division alone with all the young up and
I
comers.
was,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's crazy. You could do Aaron Blanchfield and Valentina 3 times. You could do Aaron Blanchfield versus like Manon Fiore potentially 3 times, like even Santos. There's so many young talents that are so young into the game as well. It's very possible that they are maybe the first fight they're fighting to get into the top 10. The second fight, they're both solidified in the top 5, but one has to earn a title. Third fight, someone is a champion and someone earned their way back to fight for the title. That's kind of the way that we envision a lot of these scenarios. I think that's probably fair, right? One time they fight to be elite. The second time they fight to earn a title shot. And then the third one, someone has become a champion and the other one worked their way back. I think that's the perfect recipe for a trilogy.
A rivalry I see bubbling a little bit. It hasn't got to its peak yet because the fight's a ways away from happening. I'll throw out Jamahal Hill, Jiri Prochazka.
That's a good one. I do like that one. Yeah.
Because Jiri, never lost his belt. He comes back from injury. Maybe he gets right back to the throne, but I don't think Jamahal Hill's going anywhere. So, and Jiri has that style, Dom, where he's so good that he can be a champion against. I mean, he can beat anybody. He's that good, but he also has those deficiencies or those moments of weakness where he can get caught against anybody and lose against anybody too. It feels like.
I'll give you one. I see. This is what I knew was going to happen on this question, but it's fun. I had to give my boy Tom Aspinall a little shout out. He's been out
Mm.
for a while. I'm so ready to see him back from the knee injury. What about him? Because he's going to take a step back in his next fight, and I'm not saying this will be his next one. But these are two guys that I view as future champions at heavyweight. Tom Aspinall, Jailton Almeida, potential trilogy bout down the line.
Ooh,
That'd be a fun one, huh?
that would be fun. I actually thought you were going to say Pavlovich, but
Uh,
I could see him being in that mix too. I don't know how old Pavlovich is. I feel like he's around 31, 30.
yeah, he's not. Yeah, prime.
So no, I like that. The idea of Aspinall, Jailton, Almeida fighting in the future really just
Mm.
does something for me.
Yeah, that's the beauty of heavyweight right now. It's the best it's ever been in terms of like young talent, I think, especially.
That's an interesting debate too. Just like because I feel like as so much of the discourse I'm hearing, even this week, I've been watching a lot of Chael Sonnen interviews this week. He's been painting this picture that this heavyweight division's in a bad spot. He's talking
Oh
about how
man.
Surreal gone is the only top 25 ranked heavyweight that has never had a wrestling match, and the only top 25 ranked heavyweight that's not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's 1-1 in his last two. He's like, why the hell is Surreal gone at the top of the card? So,
Wow.
like, I know it's like, damn. I'm like, I mean, we've thought pretty highly of Surreal gone, so it's
Yeah. That I don't know, man, dude. I look at this top 15 at heavyweight right now. Obviously, there's some that strike out. I think a little bit, but
I think
overall,
it
man.
thins out pretty quick though. Like when you get to unranked, I mean, it's a bit.
Oh, unranked, there's a huge drop off. I mean, we see that
Yeah.
on every fight night featured bout. There's always one of those you can count on. But if you're talking about these top dogs, man, and skill for skill, pound for pound, these are the. I think this is the best batch of heavyweights we've probably ever seen skill wise, and that's even without
That
Francis.
man, yeah, that's a hot take too, Dom, to say that. I mean, that's because you think back to some of these heavyweight groups. It's definitely better than like what the tough boom when like Arlovsky and Sylvia were at the
Mhm.
top. Like that's
The
always looked at as
trilogy,
like the weakest. That's looked at as like the weakest
yeah.
point in the heavyweight division. But man,
Brock's
you
era
look
was
up
good.
who Brock. Oh yeah,
Brock's era was
Brock
good.
with Frank. Yeah, Frank Mir, Noguera was there.
Shane
I
Carwin.
mean, and then you go to like Kane and JDS, and
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
Bigfoot Silva. Frank Mir was still there for a little bit. I don't know. And then Fabricio Verdum came in, obviously.
Mhm.
Ooh, I don't think I can go that far, especially I know technically it's cheating because it's like not all UFC, but you go before tough or even at that time. I mean, the Pride heavyweight division was
Yeah.
probably the best heavyweight division ever.
Mm.
So you include those UFC heavyweights into Pride. I mean, that was the best batch of heavyweights, ever across MMA. You look at
Yeah.
today's, yeah, the UFC have most of the top ones. Like Ryan Bader, is he a top 10 worldwide heavyweight? Maybe. But, you know, he's not one of the guys that's up for debate for being the top of the, pound for pound or top of the division rankings as a whole for all of MMA.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
That's interesting. I'd like to hear people's thoughts on that, what they think of the heavyweight division, because that's a bold statement. I mean, I there is the talent there. Like there is some guys, some diamonds in the rough is more what I look at it though as Dom, because
Mm.
there's a lot of stale pieces in this top 15 as well. I
Oh,
mean,
there
there's
are. There definitely
so
are.
that's I mean, you compare the heavyweight division to almost any other weight class in the UFC outside of women's bantamweight and I guess women's featherweight. I think it's probably the third weakest top 15.
Ooh. Mm.
Well, you might be able to put light heavyweight
Yeah,
in there
that's the one
because
I was wondering. That and middleweight's getting a little bit stronger. But yeah, I think light heavyweight and then maybe heavyweight after that. Yeah.
and yet, I mean, despite being kind of middle of the road for the divisions in terms of top 15, you stand by the best heavyweight division we've ever had.
I think so, dude. I'm gonna. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, look, we got Cyril Gahn, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Aspinall, Spivak, Romanov, Almeida. That's 7 of the 15 that I think could all hold a belt.
You think Spivak can hold a belt? You're lying. You're lying if you say that.
The way he's looked, I don't care what type of Derek Lewis he's beaten up. You never know with
Dom,
these
come on.
heavyweights, so he's
Come
got the power
on.
to do it. Yeah.
Every other name you said, I would give you, but the polar bear ain't winning no damn title. Did
The
you
polar
really?
bear
Did
can
you
roar.
really fall? Did you fall that hard for him with his little post-fight speech where he called for John Jones in the title? Like you really fell for him that hard?
I must have. I must have. The only way to solve it, well, never mind. We won't get it because Sergey's fighting Curtis. I wanted Sergey on Sergey violence, but I'll wait for
Dom,
that.
I'm telling you, Pavlovich gets smashed by any of those guys you just said.
You mean Spivak, I'm assuming.
Spivak. My brain's
Well,
all
he
over the
already
place.
has been smashed by Aspinall, so you do have a partial point there.
I mean, I think he's good for sure. I think he's a quality top 15 heavyweight, but I think he's hit his ceiling, like where he's at now. Like I don't like, and I mean,
Yeah.
he had the kind of like he'll look great against guys like Derek Lewis or even Greg Hardy. Like he kind of looks like phenomenal.
Yeah.
But Dom, when he goes up against a guy who's able to catch him or has hand speed, not just power, but is able to kind of hit him with punches and bunches, he just
Like
can't. He
Tom.
doesn't have the durability that you
Yeah.
need as a top level heavyweight to win a title, in my opinion.
No, that's a fair point. That's a very fair point.
I mean,
But I'm
if
sticking
you
to
want
it.
to cut, you could come back at me if you want. I mean,
No,
unless
I
you,
even if you take him out, that's still 6 guys I think could be champions. I don't know if I could go back to another heavyweight era and name 6 people I think could be champions.
yeah,
It could be
do
close,
in
3,
the
4,
moment.
5, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I will be curious to see what other people think because I do feel like a lot of the discourse that you hear, not just Chael Sonnen, but people talk about the heavyweight division like it's weak. And maybe some of that's because these damn fight night cards are filled with these unranked heavyweights that are
That's the
on these
problem.
big spots.
Yeah.
When really, I think if anything, it's very top heavy, but that top is maybe like you're saying, maybe it is the most talented.
Yeah.
At least like when you take those 6, if you put those 6 up against the top 6 from any other era in terms of potential mixed with what they've achieved, maybe you're right. Maybe it is the most potential filled, the highest ceiling of any heavyweight weight class in history. You may have a point to that. That would actually be a good take to, die on that hill, Dom.
Oh, I will. Let's go, big boys. We got the
All
big
right,
boys in the flyweights.
yeah, I stalled enough. I was
Wing
hoping that
7.
question would go on forever.
Wing 7, question 6.
Tell my mother I love her.
Will do.
Question 6, Dom. Jamahal Hill is now the light heavyweight champion of the UFC, of course. And he's got a few potential opponents in his near future. My question is, who of these potential opponents would you favor against Jamahal Hill? We have Jiri Prochazka,
Yep.
Magomed Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz, and Alexander Rakic. Those 4 specifically. But Dominic, if there's any other current light heavyweights who you think could be favored against him right now, feel free to throw them in as well.
Okay.
And when I
So
say
if these-
favorite, I mean in your mind, not betting odds, what you think.
Like to win the fight, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like not betting odds, not who's going to be favored to win the fight betting odds wise, but just in your mind, who do you favor to win?
Yeah. So I know we've kind of had this discussion partially, but it was more toward the betting odds part of side of things with these 4 fighters and Jamahal. And we said with all of them, it would be essentially a pick 'em fight, if not Jamahal being a betting underdog. So then if you take the betting odds away and you just look at the fight styles here, Jamahal versus Jiri, that's such a that to me is like a pretty much toss up 50-50. So I can't confidently say Jiri definitely beats Jamahal. You go down to Magomed Ankalaev, it gets a little different because he brings in the grappling side of things. But here I am not backtracking, but fighting that point against myself because you look at Jamal's takedown defense versus Glover, it was sensational. It was unbelievable, as a matter of fact, how good it was. I know Magomed's a little bit younger. He's a little bit faster, a little bit stronger than Jiri. Or I'm sorry, not Jiri, Glover, when it would come to those takedowns. I don't know, though, man. I kind of feel semi-confident Jamahal could beat Magomed. Okay, so let me go to number 3, Jan Blachowicz. I think Jamahal probably gets the best of Jan. I think so on the feet, even grappling. I just don't think Jan can get... If Glover can't get Jamahal down, I don't think Jan's getting Jamahal down. Rakic is an interesting one. Now, he is out with a knee injury. I'm excited to see him back. I know he's not always in the most fun of fights, but he is a very elite striker and kickboxer. Jamahal Hill, a very, very, very good boxer striker. Not necessarily with his kicks, though. I almost feel like there's a world where Alexander Rakic could outpoint Jamal to a decision and win a belt. So crazy enough, Noah, out of those four, I think Rakic would be the hardest fight and potentially the one to beat
Wow.
Jamal out of those four. I just talked myself into that, I think. But I'm gonna stick with it.
Any other names? Any other names that aren't on here that you may favor?
Well, if Almeida ever comes back down, I would go him at lightweight heavyweight champion. But
Right now, though, it's right
right,
now.
of course. Walker, Span, Ozdemir, Craig, Reyes, Crute, Jacoby, Roundtree, Mazurkanov, Smith,
I feel like you so badly want to go Anthony Smith.
Oh, I would love nothing more than Anthony Smith to win a belt and rub it into all the haters' faces. But no, I think these are definitely like the top four with the best chance. And out of those four, I can't believe it, but I think Rakic might have the best chance. I don't know.
That's actually, I'm glad you went that way because for me, it was Jiri Prochazka and Magomed Ankalaev that I would favor.
Yeah.
Jiri, like you said, I mean, it's almost a pick 'em.
Just because he's a wild man, you know?
He's a wild man, but I
Yeah.
could definitely see him getting a win. Ankalaev, I actually think I feel more confident in. You are right, though. Like, Jamahal Hill showed so much improvement in terms of his takedown defense. But even if he's not taking him down, like, Ankalaev is very capable of fighting, outpointing Jamahal Hill for 5 rounds. I mean, it's definitely possible. Jamahal Hill is he's got great stand-up. Don't get me wrong. Powerful stand-up.
Yeah.
The kind of guy that can put you away with one punch at light heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
But we have seen when and now it's a small sample size, but when he's forced to go into later rounds, I'm not going to say he slows down. He doesn't, at least not usually. I mean, in Glover, he beat on Glover for 5 rounds and looked like the fresher guy in doing so. But I will say, like, I look at the Thiago Santos fight. Obviously, Thiago Santos is a very talented kickboxer, underrated talent at light heavyweight. But this was not the Thiago Santos that nearly beat John Jones on one leg.
Yeah.
This is the Thiago Santos that, after that injury, lost more fights than he won before now he's going to be competing in the PFL.
Yeah.
And yes, Jamahal Hill got a finish round 4, and he's capable of doing that at any point, any round. But it was actually a pretty competitive fight, like standing for the majority of it.
Yeah.
And again, Thiago Santos is probably a purely better striker than Ankalaev, but I think the respect that you have to show Ankalaev due to how well-rounded he is gives openings in the stand-up that maybe Thiago wasn't able to find against Jamahal Hill.
I like that.
So for that reason, I would favor Ankalaev. But after the egg that Ankalaev kind of dropped against Jan Blachowicz still very good. It does kind of make me wonder if maybe we had crowned this guy as the future too soon. Yes, he came on strong in the final rounds, but make no mistake. I mean, he was a couple leg kicks away from being out of there, like it looked like at points. Like
going in, the world, the community was heavily on the Ankalaev side. You know?
I mean, it's a bit like it's a smaller example of like when Islam was expected, not by us, but expected by the community to dominate Volk, and then he doesn't.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, it's like a disappointing performance. We don't view it that way.
For sure.
Now all of a sudden, Islam beat the number 1 pound for pound fighter, and yet he was like, it was looked at as like a disappointing performance.
Right. Yeah. Do you have anybody out of those 4?
I would say Prochazka and Ankalaev. I think Blachowicz, it's hard to count out Blachowicz because if that fight is standing for 5 rounds, I mean, look at what Blachowicz did against Izzy. Now, Jamahal Hill, bigger, more powerful than Izzy, an actual 205-pounder. But, Jan Blachowicz was in a kickboxing match against Izzy and didn't look bad doing it. And obviously he was able to get that fight to the ground in the later rounds and kind of hold him down. But Jan Blachowicz is not actually that good of a grappler. Like,
Right.
I think in that fight, it happened because he was just so much bigger
Yeah,
than Izzy. But in general, I think this fight would be majority on the feet.
for sure.
And I feel like Jamahal Hill I'd favor him, the hand speed, the power, Polish power is there, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind to see it. And Alexander Rakic is the wild card. That's why I put him on here, because people are going to forget.
Oh,
Rakic,
absolutely.
I hope, will be back soon. Last time we saw him was against Jan Blachowicz, and that fight was just getting underway when Rakic blew out his knees. So hopefully he comes back 100%. If he does, I like your points there. I'm not going to favor him at this moment, but if he comes back and maybe fights Blachowicz again, or hell, fights Ankalaev and he wins, that would say a lot for me in terms of who I would be siding with in a future fight. But right this second, going to ride with Jamahal Hill on that one.
Okay. And nobody else outside the top 4? Just for funsies?
No, I do
Except
think
Anthony
there's some
Smith.
I was hoping you'd say Anthony Smith so I could shit on you for it, but no, Anthony Smith is great. But even though everybody seems to think he's terrible, I don't know what's going on there. We asked for people to explain the hatred for Anthony Smith, and all the responses were just saying that they hate Anthony Smith.
Basically, yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess was what we asked for, but it was like it was like because he's a shitty fighter who gets mad, or he critiques fighters
People
that are so
better
much
than
more
him or
accomplished than him, and I'm like, wasn't that kind of what you're doing by critiquing Anthony Smith?
And Anthony is an analyst for ESPN.
Well, yeah. Well, I was kind of like, wait, so the guy commenting on this video, who's probably never fought a day in their life, is calling Anthony Smith the shitty fighter.
Right.
But you're mad at Anthony Smith, who you say is a shitty fighter, for talking shit about great fighters. Do you get the...
I see.
There's like a steps. Yeah, the circle there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I have some empathy for Anthony Smith, because we are both guys who don't fight.
Right.
Contrary to our new logo, those aren't real. That's not real blood. It's not real scars. I know it was hard to tell, but we critique fighters all the time on this show. Like I just don't have a reason to dislike Anthony Smith because he analyzes fighters and fights. Like he's good at it
and is very good at it. Right. Also,
I think he gets smashed by Jamahal Hill.
And you're probably saying no to anyone else, I'm assuming, out of the top
4. Well, what was interesting, you said you were talking about Jailton Almeida.
I hope he comes back down, but probably not.
But see, the question, what I'm thinking like right now, if the fight was booked tomorrow, who would you favor? And I think Almeida still needs some more seasoning before he's ready to like take a title.
Yeah, I'd say that's still fair for sure. Yeah. And I'll go a step further. From 5 to 15, there's no one, I don't think, 5 to 15 that beats anyone 1 to 4. I'm going to say that right now. If they fought right this second, I don't think there is.
Another wild card that you can just throw in here? Actually, there's 2. I mean, is Johnny Walker back? That's the question, right?
I did ask that partially, I guess, when he fought last too.
I mean, I'm still not quite there, but I'm just saying he's a wild card. And the guy he beat last, Paul Craig, has a win over the champion. Just saying. He's just such a weird matchup for people. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
you're saying Johnny is weird.
No, Paul Craig.
Paul Craig. Okay.
Because he's so good when he gets a hold of you, he's able to submit you like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys just ain't ready for it. Jamahal Hill found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. More times than not, Jamahal Hill's Paul Craig. It's my.
You are sporting the traditional Scottish kilt. What is under? Yes, please.
You want to see? It's my.
Your kibbles and bits?
It's my cock.
No.
Is going to get smashed by anybody in the top 5. But I could see a chance. I could just see like a sliver, like one out of every 10 times he fights one of those top 5 guys, he's probably catching him in something.
Well, you know what, Noah? Let us not forget. Yes, he does have a win over Jamal. He submitted Magomed Ankalaev as well with 1 second left in their
That's true.
fight.
That's
He
true.
has 2
Yeah.
wins against arguably the 2 best guys in the division. Yet he's ranked number 10, and not many people are going to see him challenging for a
Yeah.
title
Yeah,
ever.
he'll
But
never get there, unfortunately, because he just has to have too many. He has a very limited but powerful skill set. But unfortunately, he has too many bad matchups ahead of him. But if he were to get one of those matchups, I'm just saying there's like a 10% chance he wins.
one more add-on question. Okay, we're really giving you a lot of cooldown time with the
Yeah.
wings. That's probably a good thing.
It's much
This isn't-
appreciated.
Of course, this is no slight to Jan Blachowicz, Polish power, but he's the oldest of those top 4 in discussion. So if you were to take out Jan Blachowicz, who would be someone from 5 to 15 that you think takes that spot next into that top 4? Do
Can
you
you give
think?
me? Can you give me the names that follow
course.
these guys in the rankings?
Yep. So literally, you listed 1 through 4. That was our beginning discussion. Anthony Smith starts at number 5. Then you have Krylov, Walker, Spann, Uzdemir, Craig, Reyes, Krut, Jacoby, Roundtree, Murzakanov. Ryan Spann could be a low-key wild card. I totally actually forgot because we were supposed to see him fight this past weekend. I think he could get into that. I would say he would take that place next over those other guys.
God, out of the group you just mentioned, you're right though. None of these guys are probably touching anybody in
I don't
that
think
top.
so. I don't think so.
At one time, I might have believed Jimmy Crute had that potential, but I don't know. He's even his last
think-
win, like, ugh,
I-
you know,
I think Spann's the closest, and I still don't think I'd favor him over any of those top 4.
no, I'm
Maybe
not even
he
sure if I
over
favor.
Jan, but
I'm not even sure if I favor him over Krylov, but
right. Yeah, I forgot. That's
it's
true.
like, do I want to put Krylov in that? And Anthony Smith, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust Anthony Smith. Like, he looks
Yeah.
really good at points, and then
Yeah.
he has some pretty rough performances sometimes too. It's man,
And you know-
that is a big drop. Let me tell you, because I think
That-
these top 5 that we're talking about are all capable or have held a title.
Yeah.
And once you go below that, though, Dom, it drops. I mean, Ryan
does.
Spann, we'll see if it's legit. If he,
Yeah.
made the changes to his camp and
Yeah.
is taking things seriously. He did seem emotional. If you saw his interview he had when the fight fell through,
Falling out
he was very emotional talking about it. And now the fight's been rebooked for like a week from now.
next
So
week.
we'll find out if he gets a really big win there and looks good doing it. All of a sudden maybe he creeps into that discussion. But
Yeah.
I've had
yeah.
too many times where I've seen Ryan Spann not look like that kind of fighter for me to just give him it off of a win over Dominic Reyes.
Well said. We'll leave it at that.
Okay, another wing. So
Wing 8, question 7.
I will say the numbness of my tongue is actually helping. In the
It's
fact
got
that,
it.
like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm stomaching this better as I go.
Yeah. You have gained wind. I feel like it's probably only hurting now as you swallow, and maybe that's about it because you don't feel it on your tongue no more.
Oh shit!
Uh-oh.
Like, oh god,
Oh, yeah. Wrong
burning my
hole.
esophagus.
It's back. It's back.
Yep, not good. Question 7, Dom.
Yeah.
With Surreal Gone fighting this weekend,
Yeah.
if he were to lose, there could be a discussion had on Monday about if we were wrong about Surreal Gone and our hopes for him to be the most talented heavyweight of all time, our calls for him to be that. So because of that, since that fight hasn't taken place, question is, who is the fighter we were most wrong about? And we'll each give one here, but this is not just during the time of this show, but even before that. I mean, Dom, you used to be the king of hot takes.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn, I know I've got some crazy ones too that I just can't bring out or just can't remember, I should say. I'm trying to think of something. Man, this is a tough one for me, Noah. You're gonna have to bear with me here. We're gonna have to bear with each other because you're cooling down. I'm trying to think.
Can I throw one out just to get the conversation started?
That's probably gonna have to be the best method here for this one. Yeah.
This isn't a great answer, but it's just someone that popped in my head. Cody Garbrandt.
See, I thought that initially and just wasn't sure how I wanted to word it, but for sure, like when he beat Dominic Cruz, he looked like the best bantamweight of all time, and since then is 1-5, and all 5 losses are by knockout. I'm pretty sure.
Well, Rob Font was a decision.
Okay, yeah,
but
4 out of 5, and then yeah.
I think all 4 of those all 4 of those were before round 3. So
Yeah.
first 2 rounds.
I think that's definitely up there, and I think that's safe to say that's for both of us too. It really is. It's really been a wild career for Cody, and we're going to see how he can potentially bounce back. I mean, he's fighting Trevin Jones this weekend at 285. That's definitely up there, and it's definitely a mutual one for us. I think that is
Can
a
I
good
throw
one.
out another one if you're
Yeah,
still
of
thinking?
course. Of course.
This is one from the podcast. I don't know how much we really bought into it, but there was a discussion at one point, Dom. Who's the future of the heavyweight division, Tom Aspinall or Chris Dawkins?
Damn, yeah, you're right. They were neck and neck at one time for sure.
And Chris Dawkins has time. His story is not written yet, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you someone that I felt really wrong about because they're not in the UFC anymore. So unless they come back, that might be all she wrote. I thought Askar Askarov was a future UFC champion.
Oh, yeah, dude. I forgot about that. He got cut, no? Or did he
I think he
free
asked
agent
for his
and left?
release.
Okay,
He asked
okay.
for his release.
And he hasn't fought, I don't think, anywhere that I know
I
of.
think he went to
definitely haven't heard.
ACA.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of old ones, even like before the podcast, if I can. It gets a little tougher. Trying
What
to think of
about
some.
one for you? What about like Brandon Vera
From
or
what
the Tarantula?
I did, yeah. See, I was so young then. I probably just thought all these guys could do amazing things. But yeah, the Tarantula, Kendall Grove, I loved him. Trying to think of all those guys: Chuck, the Rich Franklins, the Tito's, the Anderson era. I don't know, man. I'm honestly struggling here. Like Cody's the one that came to my head first. This wasn't necessarily me. I bet when she first came into the UFC, I definitely probably believed in the hype. Maybe not potentially all the way to a champion like people were saying, or like the way Dana was hyping her up at one time. Cynthia Calvillo was someone who had a lot of hype
that's a
coming
good
into the
one.
UFC. So they talked about how great of a grappler that she was, and Dana was really, really high on Cynthia when they brought her in.
I
She
think
was
he
with
called her
Alpha
the future
Male.
Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a partial quote, at least from when she came in, and she had early moments of success, but never anything that made me, believe into that hype, or at least if I did believe in it, I quickly stopped. So I think partially I could say for me, Cynthia would be one, maybe not as high as others, but I think that's a good one. Definitely for like just the MMA world and community as a whole. I hope the Cyril Gahn one doesn't come true as a fan this Saturday. You know what though, man? Like, if Gahn were to lose, it's a loss to Francis and it's a loss to John Jones. Do you think having those 2 losses would potentially make us wrong about him? Because I feel like there's
It,
still just a room for him to correct those wrongs.
it depends on how he loses.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
you have to remember the claim that we made was that he was perhaps the most talented all-around heavyweight of all time.
right.
If he shows a complete lack of takedown defense and really just a lack of IQ in the
Yeah.
ground game, Dom, me and you, we're not going to be as smart to every single aspect of that
Nuance,
ground
yeah.
game.
Yeah.
But I have watched videos broke down that fight with Ngannou and Gahn.
Okay.
And the consistent thing I was hearing was that Gahn was making day one mistakes in the jiu-jitsu side of things. So and part of me wants to believe he was so not expecting Ngannou to take him down that it was just like this thing he didn't even work on in his camp, and it kind of showed. when the fight went there, and Ngannou just showed a lot more talent in that aspect than we thought he had.
Mm-hmm.
But if Jones, who is a better grappler than Francis is, comes in here and does similar things, I think we can say, I think I'll be able to say with certainty he may be the guy I was most wrong about, because I think he's an elite level heavyweight, but a very limited one.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm worried about, because I really thought with stuff he had shown in his submission capabilities, along with the really high level striking, I thought he was a complete package. But now we're seeing defensively, he may not only be a little weaker in his grappling defense. Dom, they were saying he looked lost in the sauce in those exchanges. So
we really will find out against John too.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not writing him off as being a potential future champion, because losses to Ngannou and Jones, I mean, you're talking two of the best heavyweights ever.
Yeah.
Well, one of the best heavyweights ever, the best fighter of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting Gon to lose. I just hope that he doesn't lose in that fashion.
Fair. Dude, I think another one, this is a kind of related to Calvillo, so I was partially on the train, but just as the community as a whole, Uriah Hall's got to be up there, right? Got to be. Coming off the Ultimate Fighter.
You know, it's hard for me because I'm very limited in my era. You know, it's UFC 199 in the present day as far as that I can say that I watched live. So, yeah, Uriah Hall, when he was on the Ultimate Fighter, I mean, Dana, I've watched old interviews with Dana where they talked about bringing him in to fight Anderson right away. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, he really had people convinced that he was going to be a huge deal.
Yeah.
A couple people I was wrong about, and both of these were probably on the podcast. I mean, I've already talked about Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, how wrong I was. I bet against him almost every step of the way, and they both became champions.
Right.
One beating the other. But then, like, Paulo Costa, I thought was going to beat Israel Adesanya.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I predicted one of our very first episodes, we were predicting who the champions would be a year later. Dominic, I said Marlon Moraes for bantamweight. Marlon Moraes never won another fight in the UFC.
And hasn't outside either as of now.
Yep.
So, yeah.
He retired and then came back. So,
yeah,
that was a bad one. But the Magic Man I thought he had all the potential in the world. I was still hung up on his knockout victories over Sterling and Jimmy Rivera. That's another guy, Jimmy Rivera.
Whatever happened to him, huh? Yeah.
Didn't he go to bare knuckle?
Oh, boy. We were tight with his family. We should know this.
But Dom, when I was at UFC 203 with you, I thought, even though the fight wasn't all that great, when Jimmy Rivera beat Uriah Faber, I said, holy shit. And he was, 22-1 or
yeah, he was on an insane, his record was nuts.
He wasn't undefeated though. I think he had one loss or something.
Yeah, no more than one though.
It was a really good record.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this guy's a future champion. I remember saying that.
Yeah.
So actually he's a good one, because even though he was still good, he just, all of a sudden he was gone. And I believe he went to bare knuckle. I could be wrong, but.
Well, since you brought up UFC 203, I guess I'll bring out the most glaring one for me then, because you just rung the bell. Probably Jojo Calderwood, formerly known as Jojo Wood, Joanne Wood now. UFC 203, it's an infamous story at this point. If you're a longtime listener, you know the vibes by this point. But I was really high on Jojo, and I had heard a lot about her heading into UFC 203 way back in 2016. I was hyping her up to Noah and our friend Tommy and Nick when we all went to Cleveland to see that event. She was fighting Jessica Andrade, funny enough, that evening, and I didn't quite know what was to come of Jessica's career at that point, but I just thought Joanne was going to be the next big thing. Had never been taken down before. It's still a real fact at that point. It really was, I promise. And she got smashed by Jessica Andrade in that fight. Wasn't even competitive for 1 second. And really, ever since then, it's not gotten too much better. Like, she did go down in weight to 125. She's had her fair moments, top 10 and whatnot, but never anything that crazy. So I had to have some fun with myself there, Noah.
I was trying to think of one more that I was like low on and ended up exceeding expectations.
I know. I was trying to think of vice versa.
I feel like so often it's people you're high on who disappoint. It's hardly ever. I mean, I mentioned that I was low on Blachowicz and Glover, but those are
Right.
like really big examples. I'm trying to think of someone who I was low on from the beginning, and then here they are now as like one of the top fighters in the world. It's hard because you typically don't have that many thoughts about people when they're, young in the game, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
um
Someone that could disappoint us, potentially, still yet to be determined. Manel Kopp could be one. Really excited when he came into the UFC. He started
Yeah,
rough. He's
that's true.
strengthened out, but he's at number 9 right now, so that's still kind of, we'll see. But
You
when
know
I
who
know, I
could
know.
be
Go ahead.
who could end up being an example of what I'm talking about, someone I was low on who exceeds those expectations. It could be Patty Pimblett, truthfully.
That would be the biggest one for you for sure, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
think
I
so.
mean, because if he
Well,
became like a champion, I mean, there's a lot of proof of me saying otherwise.
Bilal Muhammad.
Well, that's the thing
But
though.
he's kind of,
I've always thought Bilal was good. I just didn't like his fight style. That was always my
yeah.
thing. He was
Okay.
he was a guy that I picked on because I thought he was boring.
Yeah.
But then I will say
He's changed that.
I did bet against him again when he fought Luque.
Mhm.
I bet for him when he
We
fought
did.
Sean Brady.
Yeah.
But the performance he put on against Sean Brady has brought me around to being like, you know what? He is an elite welterweight and
Yeah.
should be treated as such.
Yeah.
Try to think if there's any last ones before we move on.
The one I can't think of the vice versa one.
You know
where
who
the
I had
guy
wrote
fought
off,
well.
but now I'm like really back on board with. I had wrote him off completely, but now I'm like I've made bold claims about this guy in the other direction. I've been like either really into this guy or really not in the
Okay.
middle, and that's Renato Moicano.
That's true. That is true.
I had completely wrote him off. Said this guy's never going to amount to anything really. And what did I say after his last win? I said he has the capabilities of making a Charles Oliveira like run.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
So I guess that's plenty.
We
and
covered a lot of bases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did enough stalling. These wings are getting cold, by the way, and they were already cold to start. So,
Wing 9, question 8.
all right, question 8. This is something we're going to do together, Dom.
Yep.
Much like Lego sets, we are going to build together the perfect MMA fighter based on these 5 separate categories:
Mm-hmm.
fight IQ, boxing, kicks, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Yes, I know people, you could probably have more categories here, but we're just doing simple 5, and me and Dom have to come to a consensus. So
Yep.
I was firmly expecting myself to be like basically incoherent at this point. So
Yeah.
I am proud of myself and
Me
my
too.
tongue for going dead on me, so that way I can
Yeah.
focus more on trying to talk without my tongue flopping out like a damn dog and less about the heat of the wings. So
Right.
with that being said, Dom, who sticks out to you right away for fight IQ? Because to me, I feel like there's one answer to this.
Okay. Should we say it at the same time? 3, 2, 1. See if we're
Sure.
on the same wavelength.
Sure.
Okay. We'll go 3, 2, 1. I'll say go. Then we say it.
So
3.
wait. So 3, 2, 1, go, then say it.
Then say it. Yes.
Okay.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Volkanovski.
GSP.
Oh boy. Okay.
That's a good. Actually, you know what's funny? Volkanovski was my second
Okay.
choice for this.
Okay.
So honestly, there's really not a wrong answer here. So maybe I was wrong in saying there's only one right answer. But
Okay.
am I fair to say that I feel like GSP should have the edge over Volkanovski, though?
I would think so. Yeah.
Because I look at some of the performances that stick out. This is splitting hairs because Volkanovski, you look at what he did against Max in like the third fight.
Yeah.
What he nearly pulled off against Islam. Like the guy obviously has one of the best fight IQs ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being that he has physical limitations compared to some of his peers at featherweight. He's shorter stature, sometimes doesn't have the reach advantage. It's very impressive. But GSP was able to outstrike people with more striking experience than him, was able to out grapple and out wrestle better or more established wrestlers than him.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at some of the performances, one that sticks out to me was when he fought Josh Koscheck the second time.
Okay.
Basically, what he did for 5 rounds was he butchered Koscheck's face with the jab. As simple as it gets. But I guarantee going into that fight, maybe they thought the jab would work, but I don't think they thought it was going to literally win them the fight. GSP had to make that choice to continue going to that well time and time again once the fight took place. That's what I'm thinking of. A game plan can be credited more to just the fighter.
Yeah.
It's the guys that made those, adjustments in the cage or, stuff that, like I just said, peppering the jab over and over again to the point where that is literally dominating you this fight.
Mhm.
That's the kind of stuff that gives him the edge over anybody in my eyes.
Okay. Yeah, that's completely fair. Yeah, we're gonna go all time then, correct? On building this fighter
Yeah.
then. Okay.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I do GSP. We'll do that for IQ. I'm here for it.
Boxing's an interesting one
Very, very much.
because I feel like so much that has at times been such a focal part of the discussion on this
It
show.
really has. Yeah.
And it feels like the right answers change time and time again because fights
Yep.
have taken place that have
Yep.
proved otherwise, whatever.
Yep.
Who do you lean to on this?
Yeah, this is one where we might have to make a small list and choose because I think of a few, and I think the boxing specifically, I think it gets hard to look at all-time lists because there's just been so many fighters. It's easier for a fight IQ to stick out on an all-time list. So for boxing, I really went current day. I'm thinking Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway. Maybe Jamahal Hill has got good boxing the way he's been looking lately. That's probably the 3 I would put for a small list to break down.
I'm trying to think of.
And I think of those 3, I would put Poirier first, just because on the feet, it's not where he's losing fights most of the
He
time.
also knocked out Conor McGregor, who
Yes.
at one time may have been the answer to this question.
Very
Fought
true.
Floyd.
I just think Dustin has the most. If you look at Dustin's strike, he looks like a boxer when he's throwing his punches, and even defensively, the way that he slips, the way that he defends with his hands, with the elbows, and everything that he does looks more like a boxer than even like a Holloway and Jamahal in terms of the way they look, and definitely the way that he performs. He's spot on offensively and defensively.
I prefer to go with the lighter weight guy like who you mentioned because of the hand speed too.
Yeah, true.
So that disqualifies people like Stipe or JDS, who are all-time boxers in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
Trying to see if there's anybody else that kind of sticks out. It's really tough. I mean, how about our Jimerson? Do you even know who I'm talking about there?
Well, wait, that's someone that came in from boxing, correct? Like one of the OGs?
He was UFC 1.
Yeah.
He's the guy that fought with one boxing glove.
Okay.
Or James Toney.
I fought Randy Couture, right?
Yeah.
We could use that. Hey, he was on the UFC roster, I guess, so could cheat a little bit there.
But no, I would say Dustin Poirier maybe. That may not be the best answer for all time.
Yeah.
Man, it's a little hard. Like fight IQ, like you said, it's a little easier
Right.
to judge all time.
Yeah.
Boxing's hard because the game has evolved so much that I feel confident
true.
that the kind of boxing we're getting today is better
Yeah.
than what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But there probably is some examples of guys who are maybe just as good, if not better, on that side of things. And it's just not sticking out to me right now.
Okay, so fight IQ, GSP, boxing, Dustin Poirier.
Now, kicks, I think there is one answer.
Okay.
Now, there could be more.
Yeah, for sure.
I need to stick to what But to me, the best, the one of the only guys, when I went back and watched some of his older fights, where every fight I was like wincing in pain by the leg kicks. And as he got older, he actually stopped going to that well as much. Jose fucking Aldo.
Oh, see, I almost wonder though, is that going to be the problem? Because he was only known for the leg kicks. You got other guys that have kicked every fucking direction, head, body, legs, or does that one type of kick make him better because he was so fucking good at that one? I think's the discussion here. Because I'm thinking guys like Izzy is a phenomenal kickboxer. Anderson Silva's kicks. Lyoto Machida's kicks. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's kicks. But they just have the wider arsenal.
Yeah,
They're
they
kicking
do.
everywhere, all areas. Jose's leg kicks are by far the best leg kicks of all time.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't really think about it like that. I mean, I guess I was purely trying to think. I was trying to separate so much the boxing from the kicking
Yeah.
that's the where my direction went. But I mean, you make a good point. I mean, Izzy is. I mean, all those guys you mentioned, Anderson. I think an underrated example would be if you go back to the old days, Pedro Hizzo
Yeah.
had some of the toughest leg kicks. Now, primarily a leg kicker. So, to your point,
Mirko Krokop.
oh God, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, he
Dude.
had the Krokop. He got Krokopped by Gonzaga.
dude,
He was
My-
dangerous, lethal with kicks.
Mirko Krokop could be the.
Get an OG on the list.
I guess when you really think about it, Dom, like, what's more valuable? I guess as two guys who've never trained.
You're right.
What's more valuable is when you attack with the legs. Is it attacking the legs of your opponent, or is it, doing some of those creative like teep kicks or
Mm-hmm.
what else? What's the ship like? What's
Question
that
mark
shit Izzy?
kicks.
Yes, that's what I was thinking
He's
of. Question mark
phenomenal
kick.
with question mark kicks.
Like, I mean, what's more valuable to you? Like, yes, Anderson and Izzy are good at kicking everywhere, but I would say because they mix in so many areas, the
Yeah.
body, the head, I don't feel like they're really known as leg kickers as much. So if you have a guy who primarily is able to focus on the legs and does it successfully, I would argue that might be the most valuable approach.
That's a good point. That's a good point, man. Because like for me, I think I would prefer someone that can kick all three areas because you're constantly making your opponent think, oh my God, am I going to get kicked in the face? Am I going to get kicked in the body? Is he about to kick me in the leg? And I think we see a lot of people even do that now. I think like even what was Wonder Boy's last fight? Who is it? With Kevin Holland.
Yeah, Kevin
He was
Holland.
able to just constantly, I think, make Kevin think, oh shit, where is the next kick going to come from? So I think I would go with a variety or kicking at all three levels, I guess I should say, over one completely dominant kick, whether it's to the head, body, or leg. And that's what I'm trying to think. Was Mirko only for the head kicks? I think he could kick pretty much everywhere.
He
though.
pretty much kicked everywhere. I feel like
tough.
we're at a bit of a standstill here.
We could always differ here, I suppose, if we wanted, but
I'm going to stick with Aldo if you want to do that. If you want to give your answer.
We'll differ here with 3. So Fight IQ, GSP, Boxing, Dustin, kicks. So you're going Jose Aldo for the dominant leg kicks. I think I'm gonna go with I wanted to go Krokop just because I brought up the old legends, but I'm gonna go with Wonder Boy. I think he's been able to have the most sustained run with the karate stance, even over longer than guys like Lyoto. So I'm gonna go with Wonder Boy's arsenal of kicks for this.
Okay, I like it. Wrestling.
Mm.
I mean, this is literally day one stuff here, Dom. I mean, wrestling was the first art that was able to combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wrestlers if you go all
shit
time.
ton. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But then you really have to break down the dominant ones. The ones that was the bread and butter. They're winning every fight with it. I'm sorry, but I have to go with Khabib. That just has to be the answer for me. I know it could even be cliche, but holy shit. 29-0, and it all came from the grappling and the wrestling. I'm going Khabib.
You know how badly I want to go a little older here.
Oh, I can tell you did.
Mark Coleman.
I knew you were going to say his name.
Who else am I thinking of from that time? Kevin Randleman, rest in peace.
Shout out Ohio.
Yep, another Ohio guy. I so badly want to pick one of those guys, but has the wrestling and MMA evolved to a point where like a guy like Khabib, it's just
It's
is it
insane,
better for
man.
MMA? You know, that don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Those guys are more credentialed in terms of American style wrestling
Yeah.
for the time. But did it fully translate? Like, because we're talking pure wrestling here. This isn't
Right.
ground and pound mixed in, because that would completely disqualify someone probably like Randleman, who was a bit more. I think that's where the term lay and pray was coined, was for Kevin Randleman.
Mhm.
All time great though. Don't get it twisted. But
Yeah.
I might just go with Habib with you.
It's
You know,
hard not to, man.
As we continue down Cage Side Rewind, we're gonna be reminded of some of those
For sure.
early days. You know, it's been a while since I think we've watched some of those early cards. So
For sure.
we may have to come back to this in the future.
For sure. For sure.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, man.
God,
Ah, man.
talk about day one.
Yeah, you could literally throw
Hoist
Hoist
Gracie.
Gracie on this list and probably be fine with it. Like,
You know who I'm
Oh.
going to go with though, because they stuck to the basics. But anytime they had had your back or anything, you were fucked. It was over. Damian Maya.
oh, that's a great one. That's so good.
And
That's
his game
so
and his
good.
jiu-jitsu game was very basic from what I'm speaking out of term here.
No,
but
I get what you're saying.
by people in the community, he stuck to the basics, but he was so
Yeah.
fucking good at it.
Yeah, yeah. And every fight, that was the game plan. I
Yeah.
feel like, what would not disqualify, but keep guys like Charles Oliveira out of this conversation. They've evolved their hands so much that he doesn't have to rely on it. I mean, he knocked out Michael
Well, some
Chandler.
of
You
it
know what I
is
mean?
some
Like,
of it matter that like when you're talking jiu-jitsu, I mean, there is a bit of defense involved in this, right? So
For
Charles
sure.
Oliveira has been submitted a few times.
Yeah, also true. Very good point. Yeah.
I believe Damian Maya has never been submitted. And
Yeah.
don't think anybody would even dare to go to the ground with him to begin with.
Yeah. Jacare would have been in there. He got submitted by
Yep.
Muniz. Muniz would have been in there even, but got submitted by Brendan Allen. Yeah, Damian Maya is a good.
Honestly, Jacare still could be up there because yes, he got
Yeah.
submitted, but like that was at the end for him.
I know she's not as successful as some of these others, but Mackenzie Dern's jiu-jitsu is still world class. I
That's
know she
true.
struggles to get it there, but when you're there,
That's not a
dangerous.
knock on her jiu-jitsu. That's a
No,
knock on her wrestling.
Right. I mean, she's a world champion, multi-time. Trying to think.
Brian Ortega
Oh shit, yeah. Brian Ortega is a great example for his
nearly
jiu-jitsu.
took the belt from Volkanovski with it.
2 times. Oh, I'm trying to think. Oh, Adolfo Vieira, multi-time world champion jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
It hasn't worked for him in the UFC though. Yeah, man. Damn.
That's the difference, right? That's how we're gonna say
Yeah.
it, anyways.
Yeah, maybe we only differed with kicks then, because Damian's hard. I think it's hard to get past Damian. Mackenzie's up there for me for sure. Maybe I just need to see more from her. I like Damian Maya, I think. Yeah.
Okay. You know who I forgot to mention for wrestling? And what's weird is like they definitely used it, especially early on in their career, but I feel like the older they got, well, I feel like they used it a lot early in their UFC career or just MMA career. And then they used it a lot at the end. And in the middle, they had a lot of like wars on the feet. And that's Randy Couture. Just throw him out
Yeah.
there.
There you go.
Talk
That's
about
very true.
accomplished. I mean, the Greco-Roman background, like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
he's an all-timer in that regard.
Very good point. Very good.
Well, that is it for the questions. But Dominic, there's only one way we end the show around here. That's what the little segment we like to call closing statements.
Yes.
But before we get into it, I got to eat the last wing.
Take it
The
away.
last one.
Number 10. What a time. What a show.
What a show.
Booyah. Now, no, I'm going to. Oh, is there a crumb?
Yep.
Got it down the crumb. Perfect. Now, no, as you chew that, I'll let you finish up. But I just would like to formally reintroduce you, reinduct you to the below average bet slip. And I'm telling you, there's no better time to have you back than right now. things are just full steam ahead for the Joes, for the MMA world, and it all gets going. UFC 285 this Saturday. And you know what else is beautiful about it? We get to be in each other's arms as we watch, hopefully, all of our bets hit this weekend. My friend, I'm so proud of you for taking down those 10 blazing wings. And I'm so happy after like 3 months to have you back. That's my closing statement.
I'm fucking proud of myself. I took those like a fucking champ.
Yes, you did. Yes,
Did I have drink? Yes. Did I use ranch? Yes. Did I heat the wings up? No. But I stand by.
They're hot as shit, basically. So,
They were still hot.
yeah.
And we got through it.
Yes.
We just did a full ass podcast.
Yes.
Do I have any closing statements? Not really. These were hot. Don't do this. Don't try this
Yeah.
at home. Do
Yeah.
like WWE
Right.
old videos they used to play.
Yeah.
Trained professionals here.
Of course.
My name's No Baker. That's Dominic Lee. My tongue is going numb. We are but just two of the below average Joes, and we'll see you guys on Friday.